let's get to the quote of the night. Most people spend more time and energy going around problems than trying to solve them. And that's from Henry Ford. And I will say that I have been dealing with this on some level in personal ways and in professional ways for a while. And I am usually the opposition, where it's like, especially professionally, I feel like this is more professionally than I feel like in personal ways, I do try to avoid things. Well, or I have been the person who's trying to avoid, I don't want to deal with that. I don't want to deal with that. I don't want to deal with that. And the sad truth of that is that the more you blow things off and the more you go around the problem than solving the problem, the longer the solution takes when you finally address the problem. And for like personal life stuff, usually that means like I don't clean the bathroom for longer than I should. And when I finally get to it, it takes me a lot longer and it's a lot harder and it's a lot grosser. Um, in professional life, I don't feel like I tend to avoid stuff like that. I mean, there are times where I just don't have time because other things have priority. But I also am participating in a lot of big projects right now that are addressing things that haven't been thoroughly dealt with for sometimes decades. And my attitude is usually, but if we fix it, then we fix it now. Like we fix it once, and then it's no longer a problem that we have to like account for and think about and remember why and all of this. And those kind of things take a long time. Like usually the attitude is that's going to take too long, or we don't have time for that. And it's like, but it takes more time when we don't do it anything to fix it than if we fix a little bit every day or every week or every month or every year. And I'm currently, because I started part time, 18 hours, you're just here to do, XYZ stuff. And then they were like, oh, you like to do this other stuff. And I was like, I'm already doing that other stuff because it needs to be done. And then people would leave or people, retire, quit, whatever, reduction in force, that kind of stuff. And so you acquire new projects and we've had to divvy up people's workloads and figure out, well, this part of what they did matches better with the stuff that you're doing. And then over here, this stuff over here that you're doing and this stuff over here. So we're very cross functional. We all kind of do bits of what would have been someone else's job 5 years ago, 10 years ago, however long ago, 20 years ago, because we have to still get all the work done. Of course, that means most of our roles are not traditionally what you would, like they're that traditional role and it encompasses other things. Um, and I've always been like, we can't just keep never dealing with this. Like, because I deal with a lot of the physical and like shifting projects in particular. I work in a library, if you're not aware, and they get postponed because they're not high priority. But I've always viewed that as like a continuous maintenance process where it's like you start at the beginning and you work your way through the end and then you go back to the beginning because it's not like something you can do in a day or a week or whatever. And sometimes they try and do that where they put it off and they put it off and they put it off and they put it off. And by the time you do it, it's so much more difficult because you haven't been managing it throughout. And a lot of the tasks I've taken over either haven't been done because people haven't had the time to manage it, or that just hasn't been done before, or, like really thought through. A lot of the stuff that I've taken on, I've had to really, like, people will acknowledge that it's a big deal, but then they won't actually prioritize it because other things take priority, which is fair. But at the same time, it's like I am now the person that needs to be there to go, nope, we have to take care of this. We have to correct the problem and then manage it over time because it's I manage the book sale, and I feel like it's always been kind of considered a necessary evil. Like there's stuff that we get in that we just can't keep because either we already have it or it's out of scope or we can't find it a home. So most libraries have a book sale of some sort. Um, but then there've been like these weird niche categories that people are like, I don't know how to deal with that. So they just let it kind of sit there and then it accumulates over time. And then after 10, 20, 30 years of accumulation, people are like, oh my gosh, there's so much of it now. And I've had to really fight to say we need to figure out a way to manage it because we can't wait 10, 20, 30 years and then just go, well, let's just get rid of it all at once. Because that just really doesn't work if you need to make sure that the footprint you're occupying doesn't ever blow up to crazy proportions. That doesn't mean you just give everything away because, that happened. Like people come before you and they're like, they did that. And then they got like, people are like, oh, you can't do that. And then they freak out and then they restrict it again. And it's like, you can't have a extreme pendulum swing. And so you really need somebody who can come in and be like, no, if you just manage it and just put it on a cycle that stays maintained, then you should be okay. And then, so right now, finally got, into a position of managing that or saying, this is what I want to do. And then I've been making baby steps in that direction. And now I'm at a point where it's like, okay, well, actually, after September, once I get to September, we'll be through like the first real year of that. And I told them I need 3 to 5 years to really see the effects because the cycle is going to take time. But if you just trust the process and understand that it has to catch up to the accumulation, then we will see the results. And after 3 to 5 years, we can evaluate what's still not working correctly. Because if you don't give it time, then you're never going to know whether it was a success or a failure. It's not one of those high turnover projects. This is a continuous maintenance process that literally will never end. What it will do is get smaller and less labor intense because you're managing it over time. It's kind of like my husband and I have really gotten into a good rhythm of keeping up on our dishes. It's real easy to just be like, well, the dishwasher isn't full. Let's just let it go for another day. We'll fill it up tomorrow and then run it. And then tomorrow comes and you have too many dishes. You have more than what the dishwasher will hold. So you run it. And then the next night you're already backed up again. And then you're backed up more. And then you're backed up more. And who was it? I think it's Dana K. White, who talks about 1 day's worth of dishes takes you 15 minutes. But 2 days worth of dishes takes you at least an hour, and 3 days or more of dishes takes you hours. And it's like the math isn't like you would just think it would be like twice as much time, and it's just not, because you have to scrape the dishes and you have to do all this stuff. It takes you more time to do the quantity of work than what you would think it would do. And it's true for lots of things. And it's a way of avoiding the problem. Instead of avoiding the problem, solve the problem, figure out like, I don't want to spend an hour or 2 hours or 3 hours doing this task or whatever. Well, how can I get it to be like a 15-minute task, a 5-minute task, that kind of thing? Well, means you need to do it a little bit every day instead of all at once on the weekend or whatever. And that works for some things and doesn't work for others. But, you find your rhythm of like, how much time do I really want this to take? And when is it going to be like at its easiest point? Don't wait for it to be at its hardest point. Try and address it at its easiest point. And yes, I'm never excited about washing dishes. I'm not like, it's going to be hard getting these things at work to be solved. But once they're solved, there's still something that has to be done. It's like, I'm not going to just be like, and I did it. Because that's just not how my job works. It's just not how you manage physical space in a library. It's an ongoing thing. And getting people to realize that, yes, you do have time for that. if it's in a managed state. If you let it blow up to where it's been unmanaged for way too long, then it's going to seem like something you can never do. Like it's just way too much work. Well, it's way too much work because you didn't spread that work out into reasonable, manageable chunks that can happen continuously forever. Like, there's a lot of things you can speed up and become more efficient at, but like dusting, you still got to do it. Shifting, you still got to do it, making sure that if new things come in, old things have to go. And unless you're willing to just chuck it all every 30 years, which nobody nobody wants to do, because that's still a lot of hard work too, because then you still got to pack it up and get it out and figure out where to take it, and that's a lot of work too. Like, you got to trust that you have the time and that it's actually less time, even though it seems like you're dealing it with it more often, because you are dealing with it more often. You're just dealing with it when it's easier, not when it's gotten so hard that it's overwhelming. And it is overwhelming. And I am, you know, I can't wait to see the fruits of it. Like I feel like I'm seeing the fruits of it, but there's still so much, because just so much accumulation. Um, but it's almost like decluttering my home. Like, it's a process. I'm not decluttered everything. I'm looking at some empty boxes of electronics that I'm like, you know what? We've had that longer than a year or 2 years or whatever. We're not going to return that. We don't need the box for it, whatever. I could probably recycle this. I'm looking at them right now. And I'll deal with them. It's on my list. But I'm not going to force myself to go too fast, because if I do that, I'll burn out and I'll just won't do anything. So I'll pace myself and accept the fact that it is a process, and it is an ongoing process that never stops. But that is how you address the problem and not just avoid it. And yeah, I saw that quote tonight and I was like, that's the quote, because I feel like that's how I've been living a lot of my existence over these last, I don't know, 2-3 years, where it's like I really, the stuff that you avoid dealing with, that's where the overwhelm starts to creep in. That's where the anxiety comes from. That's how people get into states of, I can't deal with that. It's just so much. It's everywhere. It's all the time. I don't have enough time to do it all. I don't have enough time to do it perfectly. I don't have enough time. And it's just like, then what time do you have? Do you have 2 minutes? Do you have 5 minutes? Are you walking from one room to another where that thing that you're looking at right now goes? Well, then pick it up and just take it with you. And guess what? It's an accomplishment, because you hadn't taken it before. I feel like I've been talking about this a lot. You can tell it's really present in my life right now, and it's a lot, and it's overwhelming, and it's exciting, and it makes you feel good if you let it. So anyway, so yeah, that was where that quote just kind of jumped off the page, jumped off the screen. Yeah, that, and said, "I'm your quote," and I went, okay. So anyway, hi, how is everybody? I feel like I should just start calling this my soapbox series, apparently. Get on my soapbox.